Hello and welcome to GPTV on Tuesday the 17th of December. My name's Philip Kingston.
And I'm Gary Peer.
Gary, the last episode of GPTV for 2024. Who would have thought we'd still be standing?
Well, I tell you what, we're only barely standing actually, because both of us, I noticed today, are holding on to the cabinet or to the bench here, which is very unusual because usually we're sort of animated. Today we're like, but it's been hot. I mean, yesterday was a stinking hot day.
Gary,
Come on, that took it out of me.
If that's a sign of summer, I'm glad that we're having a couple of days off over summer, Gary.
You know what? Melbourne doesn't do weather well, does it, Phil? I mean, and there's lots of wonderful things about Melbourne, but, whenever there's heat, it's extreme heat. Then there's always a rain shower afterwards, and there's floods, and it's kind of like, it's almost like we live in biblical times in Melbourne 24/7. There's always some punishment for some good
Well,
weather.
Gary, it is the topic of conversation in Melbourne. In Sydney, they talk about, surf's up, you're going to the beach.
That's it.
In Melbourne, all we talk about is the weather and football.
And a bit of politics. By the way, I'm going to say something political.
Are you going to go political?
No, I'm going to say something political.
Episode?
Yeah, I'm going to go political. Are you aware now of the $250 per property fire excess? Are you aware of that?
No, I'm not.
So if you own a block of apartments now, you own a block of 8 apartments.
Yes.
You've now got $250 per apartment. I honestly believe, and I'm sorry if you might well be a Labor lover, and that's okay. And I'm not saying Labor are bad, but I'm just saying that this policy now is yet another kick in the guts for property owners, Philip. $250 per property. Thank you very much, says Jacinta Allen, and we'll just take that in.
Well, Tim Pallas has just resigned, obviously. That's recent news. Tim Pallas, the Treasurer of Victoria, has resigned.
Yep.
Obviously, he's been getting a lot of emails and tweets and SMSs and WhatsApps about that. And he's just said, you know what? I mean, there's my parting gift.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're a treasurer and your record isn't that great, I suppose your job's not that secure, is it? I guess. But anyway, $250. Can we just maybe make it a bit easier on property owners?
Shout
in
out
Victoria.
to the government.
Yeah.
Real estate is not a magic pudding.
Yes.
It's not a magic pudding where you can just eat and eat and eat and eat and think that there is no bottom. There is a bottom, and what will happen, and it's already happening, is investors are selling their properties, which is going to make the residential rental pool smaller, which will ultimately put up rents for tenants. So, just crazy
Let's
stuff.
go back to Victoria being the place to be, not the place to flee. We don't want that, Phil. Anyway, that's just a little bit of, I had to just get that off my chest because it's a bit of a beef. You could put the Gary's beef back up there as a bit of a beef, because I've got to tell you, $250 just on top of all the increased land taxes and all the other imposts and everything else, it's just getting a bit tough to own a property in Victoria, Philip. But you know what? We'll come good because we do, because there's so much here, because the Melbourne Cup's here, Phil.
Gary, let's quickly summarise the year. It was a challenging year.
Yeah, it was a tough year, although so many of our agents, like some of our agents,
12 of our agents had their best year.
Yeah. Go figure. Can you work that out?
I cannot work that out other than to say that our 12 agents that had their best year, congratulations to them.
Yes.
It just goes to show it doesn't matter what times we live in. Some people are still excelling.
That's resilience, right?
But
there,
I will say, Gary, it was a hard year, and it was a year where we thought there was going to be growth, and there really wasn't that much growth. Most parts of the market went okay. Nothing really, there was no standout area of the market where you would say, well, these areas didn't go well, but that area went really well. I would say that on balance, the market probably settled, probably on balance dropped a little bit, but only a little bit.
Thankfully. I mean, look, it is an interesting time because you and I have had a bit of a party as real estate agents, in that we've seen property prices go up. People bought properties on the basis they would double every 7 or 10 years. And I've got to say, and this episode is about looking back and looking forward, right? And looking back, I don't think I've ever had a year, Philip, where we've sold so many properties that people have bought in the last 3 or 4 years, particularly apartments, what they were sold for less. And, we're not used to that in Melbourne. It's a very unusual thing for us.
Interesting. Like if you look at 100 years, right? If you take 100 years and you look at the graph, you would say that the 7 to 10 year rule pretty much stays, pretty much applies. But, going back, I remember when I bought my first house. Irene and I bought our first house, which was 1998.
Yes.
We then hit it was 1988, and we then hit the crash of the early 90s. It wasn't until almost 10 years later that we got our capital back.
Yeah.
But the next 2 or 3 years really soared ahead. So,
Yep.
you know, I think over time the real estate graph does go like that.
Yes.
But I think that the last 3 or 4 years have been challenging years.
They've been a bit stinky, haven't they, Phil? But it will change. That's going back. Now let's just talk about going forward. Our predictions for 2025, because I got to tell you, I think it's going to be a good year. I'm feeling good about it. I know we're going to have an interest, well, I don't know, but there's strong evidence that we're going to have an interest rate drop at some point. I know that the government going into an election would love that very much, Philip, and I think the election is going to be in March. So interest rates drop 1 or 2, that will give people a bit more confidence. There still isn't a big unemployment issue around, you know, and that's something we've seen unemployment in our time, and that's a sad state of affairs, Phil. But you know, there's good employment around still. There's immigration. The interest rates will drop. So really, when you think about it, why won't properties go up?
Well, Gary, over time we know they will, and without question, when interest rates do drop, there will be an immediate jump in the market. We've seen this time and time again. So
that's a statement. That's a guarantee.
Well,
you're going to give anyone their money back.
The one thing that I would always say too is that when you buy a house, you buy a life and a lifestyle. So it's not always about money. But the one thing that I would always say, and particularly to all of the young people that watch this show, is that a mortgage is the best discipline around financial and wealth management.
And creation, and it's a good reason to get up in the morning. That's why we get up every morning.
A very large mortgage gets Gary and I out of bed every morning.
Indeed. You know, and we feel like sleeping in some days, Phil, but then we look at the statement, the bank statement, we go, nope. Back to work we go.
Let's have a look at last weekend, Gary. Any standout sales from last weekend?
There have been a few, Phil, actually. There was. I'm glad you asked, because we have very few offerings this weekend, so that's why we're babbling a little bit. But Phil, I started off on Saturday morning going to Kew, which is quite far. Quite far. Anyway, I went to Kew, and people know that bad joke.
For those of you that are laughing at home,
you know
at the joke that we've made 8,000 times, understand that we still laugh every time we link that.
I mean,
together.
let's face it. If we were clever, Philip, we wouldn't be doing this. We'd be saving lives. We'd be brain surgeons or actuaries or something. This is all we really were good at.
Old jokes are good jokes.
For old people.
Well, the reason old jokes are good jokes, if they're still around, it's because they're a good joke.
Or we just keep telling them until we get a laugh from someone. Phil, I went to 427 Peel Street at Kew, and there were 2 bidders for that. One actively, the other one stepped up after the auction was passed in, Phil, but was sold for $565,000.
Good job, Gary.
Right, almost in the middle of our range. Nice and compliant, Philip. Mozart Street, St Kilda. We had some beautiful music at that auction, didn't we, Phil? Were you there?
Well, the music, no, I wasn't, but it's the music of bidders going hard at us.
Absolutely.
And I will say, viewers, that was our 130th block of apartments that we've sold. No other agent in Melbourne has sold 130 blocks. In fact, most agents, if they sell 2 blocks in their entire careers, they go, oh, what a hero they are. 130. And you've also listed a beautiful block.
I have
for next February, Westbury Street. If you're in the market for a great block of apartments, Westbury Street, give Gary a call.
It's a beautiful,
call now.
Old style, beautiful block. We love blocks, and no one sells more or better than we do. Anyway, that one sold. The price is disclosed, Philip, but we thought it might be around 2.3 to 2.5 or in that range. It sold for 2.690.
Excellent.
With
Good job.
Strong competition. Phil, that was during the week. Cardigan Street was listed. Just a little 1-bedroom was listed during the week. We thought we might get mid to high 2s. It went for more. Philip, Kingsley Street, Elwood. We've had a good run in Elwood, haven't we?
Love Elwood.
7A Kingsley Street, Elwood. Sold for in excess of its range. There were 3 bidders for that. But hey, Phil, Jeremy Rosens and Daniel Mickmuck combined forces in Camden Street in Balaclava, expecting to go for around 180 to 280, and soared, Philip, with 6 bidders and sold for an undisclosed price, but way over expectation.
6 bidders. Now, so sold hundreds of thousands of dollars over the reserve. And the interesting thing, when we've looked back at 2024 and said that prices probably softened a little bit, only a little bit, there were still some sales that sold at record prices. And I think what's interesting, Gary, when people come together and they have money and they want something, they're not shy to actually pay whatever it is to get it. So
is that interesting?
Record prices are still being made.
And that is interesting.
Well, I find it fascinating,
okay.
Gary. The fact that you don't,
I didn't say I didn't.
more about you than it does about
I'm just checking,
this show.
I'm just checking how interesting you think that was.
This is a real estate show,
That's
Gary.
True. So I suppose it's interesting if you think about it that way.
In the context of a real estate show, if that's interesting.
I mean, if you're a brain surgeon.
No, in context, if you're a trapeze artist, with Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, that's right.
And particularly the O. Remember
Yeah.
O, Cirque du
Great,
Soleil,
yeah.
the one with the
water,
water.
yeah, for sure.
You wouldn't find,
No.
as a trapeze artist, you wouldn't find that real estate
And
story
if
fascinating.
you're like a nature lover that got like
If
wants
you're
to go and see
David-
gorillas in
if-
the midst
yeah,
or
if you're
something like that,
David Attenborough,
Yeah.
I get that you would
wouldn't
not
find
be
that interesting.
interested.
If you're a brain
about-
surgeon, Philip, and you're
Well, if
reading
you're a
on
brain
latest
surgeon,
surgery,
you've probably got a tax problem.
wouldn't
Therefore,
find
you're
that-
investing in property. So I think
maybe you
brain
would find it
surgeons
interesting. Yeah, fair
would
enough.
find it
9 at
interesting.
124 Alexander Street, the St Kilda East, Philip, sold just above its range, $522,000, with a couple of people fighting for that one. So there's just a few of our sales to review, Philip. There's a few places that we
Gary?
haven't yet sold that are good value on the
Yes.
market, ready to go. One of those was the apartment that I passed in Chapel Street for the most delightful people. $525 will buy this terrific apartment, Philip.
Do you know how many good apartments there are priced under $700,000?
Where all the first home buyers are jumping, and they
Yeah,
should jump into that
yeah.
one as well, because that is good value. Phil, some no more auctions,
Yep.
except we have got some, but no more weekend auctions. We're
Well,
gonna do a
none
few.
for me.
Actually,
Gary.
there is
None
one
for
we're
me.
talking
I'm-
about. There
I'm
is.
hanging
You're
up-
done.
I'm hanging up my tonsils.
Hang up your boots.
I'm hanging up my tonsils,
You are.
Gary, putting my speakers away, getting the shorts and T-shirts out, and I don't think I'm auctioning until the third week of February in
You're done.
2025.
You're done for a while. You just frolic around, working on your beautiful tan, your golden tan,
Yes.
and have a wonderful time. There is some, I say an untruth, Philip, there is some auctions.
Yes.
There's actually a midweek auction in Brighton.
Yes.
And I'm the auctioneer, Philip, and that
Good.
is at 203 at 26 Worley Grove in Brighton.
Good luck to you there,
Beautiful
Gary.
one-bedroom apartment, Philip, with a car space and a stunning
You're going to go
bathroom.
out swinging.
I'm going to go out swinging in Brighton, Philip. I had dinner in Brighton last night.
Ah, how
and
lovely.
it was very, very lovely, Philip.
Did you go to the pantry, Gary? 'Cause you
No,
like
I
the
didn't.
pantry,
I don't
you?
mind it. This is Botticelli, an Italian restaurant in Brighton. If you want to go to a good
Botticelli.
Italian.
Oh,
Botticelli.
I thought it was a Chinese restaurant. Thank you for telling
Yeah,
us
no, it was
that it was an
Italian.
Italian
That's
restaurant.
okay. You're welcome. I'm happy to help you.
I thought maybe a Korean barbecue
No,
restaurant.
no, it was Italian. I'm sure of it, Phil. 52 Lahona Avenue, Brighton, Bentley East. Goes up. This is a wonderful 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, stunning town residence, Philip. And Jeremy Rosens is the auctioneer. Leon Gusenfeder said, "Can I just get one more auction in because it's been postponed for a week?" So that goes off this weekend as well.
Terrific.
4-bed, 2-bathroom, and parking for 2 cars. Phil, I'm off to Sandown on Saturday. Not Sandown, sorry, Pakenham on Saturday. Pakenham.
Pakenham.
And there's a very popular pub there called the Pakenham Inn.
Yeah.
Very full pub.
Pakenham Inn.
Pakenham Inn.
Is it really called the Pakenham
No,
Inn?
but I got you for a minute, didn't I? I'm off to Pakenham
If
to
you've
see.
got a pub in Pakenham and you haven't called it the
Pakenham
Pakenham Inn,
You should.
You've
lost an opportunity.
Register
Change
that
it.
immediately
Yeah.
and send us a slab for the thought
exactly.
process.
The Pakenham Inn, Phil.
That's very good.
Anyway, I've got Chorlton Lane running.
Chorlton Lane?
In $1 million race, Philip. Now, I own not even 1% of Chorlton Lane, but you know.
So
I've got
if
a
it
few-
does win and it does win $1 million, let's just go through the million.
Okay.
The jockey gets what percentage?
Well, firstly, it's called a slot race. So Moonee Valley have entered it on our behalf
Right.
because they like the horse.
Right.
And there's about 30% goes to Moonee Valley. So
So
there's
30%.
left.
So $100 million becomes 700,000.
Yep.
The jockey gets what?
Jockey gets its first prize about $450, Phil, I think. And so that $450 gets
So
cut
it's a
down.
$1 million race that
Yeah.
becomes $450 for the winner.
but less 30%.
Less 30%.
So it becomes
we're down to
300. The jockey gets 10%. I think the trainer gets 10%.
240.
Yep.
Yep.
And I've got less than 1%. So I get
So if Chorlton Lane wins,
Yeah.
you've got what, 0.75 of a percent?
something
so you're
like
going to
that,
get $2,000.
something
Do you
like
know
that, Phil.
how much it costs to get the horse there, Gareth?
I haven't taken that into account yet. You know what? I don't think it's such a
love
good
that.
business, is
It's
it?
your horse,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
you're going to get nothing for
Yeah.
if it wins a race with $1 million.
Hey, that's not true, nothing.
You're going to get virtually nothing.
No,
and
no.
you didn't even enter the horse.
No.
Moonee Valley, who don't own the horse,
Yeah,
have
that's
put
right.
your horse in.
Yeah,
Did
but-
they pay to get it there?
I think they do, Phil. And it's not nothing because they give you...
Hang
they give you sandwiches. As an owner, you get sandwiches
Yeah.
and you get a beer as well.
Fantastic.
So it's pretty
Fantastic.
good. So I'm looking forward to going to Pakenham. Anyway,
Cost
I'll be
of
thinking
parking,
of you.
$40.
Yeah, you get free parking as one of the owners, you know. Although I don't know if I'm going to, because of my percentage, I don't know if I get any owner's
Do you know,
rights
the
at all.
entire racing
Yeah,
industry,
yeah.
and this will have to get cleared by our solicitors,
Yeah.
it's basically a Ponzi scheme.
It
isn't
relies
it?
on bunnies like me.
It's a
Exactly
Ponzi
right.
scheme.
Exactly right. There's a
Right.
reason you're not
It-
into it, isn't it? Anyway.
Who has 1% of a
Yeah,
horse?
It's under 1%, Phil. I don't have one. I don't have as much as that.
So
and
you
the funny
got
thing is,
3/4
can I tell you
of a
the
percent
can I tell you
of-
the funniest thing? This horse actually won at Caulfield, and there was no owner there. So they said, "Who's going to make the presentation?" And I had to do it with owning like 0.07% of the horse. I'm going, oh, really proud of the trainers. And
Yeah, it's
and I
really
said,
changed
what
your
am I
life.
even doing here?
Yeah.
Anyway, look, let's just get on to Chorlton Lane because even though there's another horse in the race probably beat it, trained by the same trainer, you never know, it could be fun. Phil, that is a
wrap.
big wrap on,
It's a wrap on the
year. And I just said that I would say cheers to Gutty, who's been coming to all our auctions. We've loved you, Gutty, so thank you for coming along and being there for us. John, who writes in and watches, thank you, John. There are 2 watchers, Philip. I don't know if there's anybody else watching outside of those.
Do you know what?
2
We
people.
know that thousands of people watch
They do.
GPTV, and we want to thank you all for your continued support. We thank you for the comments that you've sent in over the year.
The insults
and
particularly.
If we've been able to enlighten you or amuse you
Even slightly
about the real estate industry, that's the reason we do it. So please watch in 2025 where, Gary, I'm changing the set in 2025.
Oh, is that right?
Viewers, hopefully by the time you come back and we make our first edition, you'll see a completely different set. It's going to be incredible. We're going to actually, in the new one, Gary, we're going to have a weather person.
Oh, I love a weather person.
So I'm going to put it out. I'm going to put it out there.
Are you going to exploit some beautiful man or woman?
We're going to look at the weather for the weekends
Okay.
and speculate about weather conditions. So if you are a person that knows anything about weather and would like to present the weather on GPTV next year, we're gonna mix it up.
Or if you know nothing about weather but just want to be shamelessly exploited on GPTV, we're not adverse to that either, Phil. You know, we'll take whatever.
Livia Nixon, if you happen to be watching this,
she watches it, I'm sure.
She does. Well,
her father's a real estate agent.
We sold something for Livia.
No, we didn't. But her father, you know, is a real estate agent, and so is her brother, who I met. Lovely
Okay,
people.
well, if the Nixons happen to be watching this and Livia's got nothing on, you.
What do you mean she's got nothing on? She's always fully clothed. What are you talking
Viewers,
about?
thank you for watching GPTV. Have a wonderful summer, a safe summer, a happy 2024, 2025. We'll see you in February for the first edition of GPTV. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. I'm wishing you all a wonderful summer, great season's greetings, and a wonderful, healthy and happy 2025. We'll see you next time.